It's 11 p.m. and you're scrolling Pinterest. You see this gorgeous, lovely room that just gets you. And you're like, yes, this is exactly what I want my designs to feel like. Then you look at what you've done. And listen, you have good taste. I know you do. But something sometimes just feels off. Like you can't quite put your finger on it, but it doesn't have that same magic. Hi, I'm Amelia, and if you're new here, this channel is basically my way of helping you turn that design eye you already have into actual paying work. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through 5 specific and subtle mistakes that quietly scream amateur. And honestly, for the longest time, I was making them too. We're going to see what they are, why they make people question your skills, and most importantly, the exact professional strategy to fix each one. And listen, even if you're not planning to charge anyone anytime soon, this is going to change how people react when they walk into your space. Instead of that awkward, "Oh, it's nice" response, you're going to get, "Oh my God, who did your design? I need their number." Because here's the thing, when you fix these 5 things, people will automatically assume you know what you're doing. They'll trust your judgment, and if you ever decide to take on clients, you can charge professional rates from day one. Why? Because your work will look professional from day one. Ready? Let's dive in. All right, mistake number 1. This one is everywhere. I see it in like 80% of the rooms people send me. It's the tiny area rug. You know the one. It's sitting in the middle of your living room like a sad little postage stamp, and all your furniture is just pushed up against the walls, not even touching it. Now, here's why this matters. When someone walks into a room with a floating rug, their brain immediately goes, something's wrong here. They can't put their finger on it, but the space feels disconnected, unfinished, like you gave up halfway through decorating. And if you're ever thinking about charging someone for design work, this one mistake will make them question everything. Because what they're subconsciously thinking is, if she can't figure out a basic rug situation, can I even trust her with my entire living room? With my budget? I learned this one the hard way. One of my very first clients, and I'm talking about when I was still doing this on nights and weekends while working in my accounting job, she looked at my rug placement and I could literally see her face change. She didn't say anything, but I knew. I could feel her confidence in me just drop. So here's what professionals actually do. The rug isn't a decoration, it's a strategy. Its job is to anchor your furniture and create what we call a conversation zone. The rule is simple. At minimum, the front legs of your sofa and any accent chairs need to be sitting on that rug, not floating next to it, not barely touching it, sitting on it. When you do this, and I mean the second you push that sofa forward to the rug, the entire room clicks. People will walk in and immediately feel like the space is intentional, pulled together, professional. And here's the thing nobody tells you, this works even if your rug isn't expensive. I've seen Target rugs look like $1 million just because they were sized and placed correctly. It's not about the price tag, it's about understanding how spaces actually work. So go measure your rug right now. Seriously, if your furniture isn't touching it, we've got some rearranging to do. Okay, mistake number 2. It's artwork that's hung way too high on the wall. Like, we're talking artwork that's practically touching the ceiling, floating in this sea of blank wall space, completely disconnected from anything below it. I know. You're thinking, but Amelia, I wanted it to be seen. Trust me, I get it. But here's what's actually happening when you do this. People walk into your space and it feels cold, sterile, like a doctor's office waiting room instead of a home. And if you're working with clients, they're going to wonder if you understand the difference between designing a gallery and designing a place where people actually want to hang out. Because here's the thing, clients aren't just paying you to fill a wall space. They're paying you to make their house feel like a home. And when your art is floating up near the ceiling, you're basically telling them that you don't understand that fundamental difference. I actually had a client once, this was maybe my 6th or 7th paid project. And she walked into her living room after I'd hung all of our artwork. She stood there for like 30 seconds, and then she goes, "It feels like a hotel lobby." Oof, that stung, but she was right. So here's what changed everything for me. Art isn't just decoration. It's supposed to create an emotional connection, and you can't connect with something that's hovering above your head like it's trying to escape. The professional rule is actually super simple. Hang your art so the center is at the eye level. That's about 57 to 60 inches from the floor. But here's the most important part that people miss. If you're hanging it above furniture, like over your sofa or your console table, it should be just about 4 to 8 inches above that furniture. When you do this, magic happens. The art and furniture start talking to each other. They become this cohesive moment instead of random things scattered around the room. People walk in and they immediately feel more comfortable because everything relates to human scale. It's one of those changes that makes people think you're way more expensive than you actually are. Because when art is hung correctly, the whole room just feels more intentional, more professional, like someone who actually knows what they're doing was in charge. All right, mistake number 3, and this one is probably costing you more credibility than all of the others combined. It's the single overhead light situation. You know what I'm talking about. That one harsh ceiling light that's supposed to illuminate your entire living room. We call it the big light. And honestly, it's the kiss of death for any design. Here's what happens when someone walks into a space that only has overhead lighting. It feels like an interrogation room. Harsh shadows everywhere, everyone looks terrible, and there's literally zero atmosphere. It's giving "we just moved in yesterday" vibes, even if you've lived there for 3 years. But here's the real problem, and this is where it gets expensive if you're trying to build a design business. When a potential client sees this, they immediately know you're thinking only in one dimension. You haven't considered how they'll actually live in this space. Like, what happens when they want to read a book in the evening? What about when they're having friends over for dinner and they want to create some sort of mood? What about when they're watching TV and they don't want the overhead glare? You're basically telling them that you haven't thought about their actual lifestyle, which is the entire point of good design. I remember this one consultation I did. It was probably 6 months into taking on clients, and I walked into their family room, flipped on the light switch. Immediately, this harsh fluorescent light flooded the room, and the husband goes, "Yeah, we literally never use this room at night because the lighting is so awful." And I was like, oh, this isn't just about making things look pretty. This is about spaces that people actually want to use. So here's what professionals actually do. We think in layers, always. Your lighting plan needs at least 3 layers. When you present this to someone, they immediately know that you're the real deal. First layer, ambient lighting. That's your overall light. And yes, it can be an overhead fixture, but it shouldn't be doing all the work. Second layer, task lighting. This is focused light for actual activities. A reading lamp next to the chair where someone actually sits to read. Under cabinet lighting in the kitchen so that they can see what they're chopping. And third, accent lighting. This is the mood magic. A small lamp on the side table, a light that highlights the artwork we just hung up properly. Even candles count here. When you walk a client through a lighting plan like this, something shifts. They stop seeing you as someone who just picks out pretty things, and they start seeing you as someone who actually understands how they're going to live in their space. And honestly, this is probably the fastest way to justify charging professional rates, because lighting is technical. It requires planning. It shows that you're thinking about their life, not just filling their room. Okay, mistake number 4, and listen, this one is going to sting a little bit because I know a lot of you have done this. Hell, I did this. It's the complete matching furniture set. You know, you go to the store, you buy the sofa, the love seat, the coffee table, and both end tables, and they all match perfectly. Same wood finish, same style, same everything. And I get it. It feels safe, right? Like, of course these pieces go together. The store literally designed them to match each other. You can't mess it up. But here's what's actually happening when someone walks into a room like this. They're subconsciously thinking, it doesn't feel personal. It feels generic. She just ordered this from a catalog. It doesn't feel curated. And if you're ever thinking about charging someone for design services, this is where they start doing the math in their head. They're like, wait, I'm paying her a design fee for something I could have clicked add to cart on myself? I learned this lesson the most expensive way possible. Early on in my transition to do this full time, back when $500 felt like winning the lottery, there was this client who had this beautiful budget, and I was so excited. And what did I do? I went to one furniture store and basically recreated their showroom in her living room. When we did the final reveal, she was polite. She said it looked nice, but I could tell something was missing. It didn't feel like her space. It felt like a furniture store display. And then a few weeks later, she hired another designer to add some personality. Ouch. So here's what I figured out. Professional designers don't match. We curate. We're creating a story, not filling a checklist. You want to intentionally mix materials, textures, and styles so the room feels like it evolved over time. Maybe you found that amazing leather chair at a vintage market, and the marble coffee table was a splurge from last year, and the linen sofa was a thoughtful investment. Maybe you pair a soft fabric sofa with a rich leather accent chair. Add a stone or marble coffee table. Mix in some metal side tables. Suddenly, the room has a story. It feels connected and collected, not purchased. And here's the thing. This is what people are actually paying for when they hire a designer. They want your eye, your ability to see how different pieces can work together in ways that they never would have thought of. Anyone can buy a matching set, but putting together a room that feels both cohesive and collected, that takes skill. That's what justifies your fee. Plus, honestly, mixed rooms photograph so much better. If you're building a portfolio, those catalog clone rooms are going to blend into the background. But a thoughtfully curated space, that's the kind of room people save on their Pinterest boards. All right, mistake number 5. This one is a little more advanced, but I guarantee that once you understand this, you'll never look at rooms the same way again. It's what we call ignoring visual weight. Basically, you've got all your heavy, dark, or bulky furniture crammed on one side of the room, and then the other side feels completely empty. The whole space feels lopsided. Now, here's why this matters more than you might think. When someone walks into an unbalanced room, they get this weird, uncomfortable feeling that they can't explain. Their brain is basically going, something's wrong here, but they don't know what it is. And if you're working with clients, this is where they start questioning whether you actually know what you're doing. Because balance, visual balance, is like Design 101. It's the difference between a room that feels merely nice and a room that feels absolutely incredible. I'll never forget this one client consultation. I walked into their living room and immediately felt dizzy. Not literally, but you know what I mean? They had this massive dark sectional on one side, a huge entertainment center right next to it, and then nothing except a tiny side table with a lamp on the other side. The husband was like, "We love our furniture, but something feels off about the room." And the wife goes, "Yeah, it's like the room is falling over." She nailed it. That's exactly what visual imbalance feels like. And this might sound like common sense, but you'll often be amazed by how often even experienced designers are making this subtle mistake when working on actual projects. You see, the thing is, visual weight isn't just about size, it's about color, texture, and form all working together. If you have a heavy, dark sectional on one side of the room, which, by the way, is totally fine, you just need to balance it on the other side. Not necessarily with another massive piece, but with multiple elements that add up to the same visual weight. So maybe you balance that dark sectional with 2 lighter armchairs, a tall floor lamp in a dark finish, and a large plant. Or a bookshelf with the meaningful objects. Or a console table with lamps and artwork above it. The goal is equilibrium. When you walk into the room, your eyes should be able to travel around the space comfortably without getting stuck in one corner. And here's what's crazy. When you get this right, people immediately assume that you're more expensive than you are. Because balanced rooms feel sophisticated. They feel intentional, like someone with serious design training was in charge. I had a client once tell me that after I rebalanced her living room. Her friends kept asking if she'd hired a real designer. She was like, "What do you mean a real designer? Amelia is a real designer." But I knew what they meant. The room suddenly had this professional quality that it didn't have before. This is honestly one of those skills that separates people who have a good taste and good eye from people who can charge good money. Because anyone can pick pretty things, but understanding how to compose a room so it feels effortless, that's expertise. And expertise can be learned. Okay, so we just covered the 5 mistakes that are probably happening in most rooms right now. You'll see that just knowing these puts you ahead of like 90% of the people trying to make spaces look good. But here's what I want you to understand. When you fix these 5 things, the floating rug, the high artwork, the single overhead light, the matching furniture sets, and the lopsided visual weight, people are going to start reacting to your spaces differently. Instead of walking into your room and feeling like something's off, they're going to walk in and immediately feel comfortable, impressed even. They're going to start asking you for advice about their own spaces. And if you're anything like I was a few years ago, working that safe job but secretly rearranging every room you walk into in your head, those conversations are going to plant a seed. Like, wait, could I actually do this professionally? Because here's the thing that nobody talks about. Having the eye for design, that's not something you can teach. You either see it or you don't. And if you stay through this entire video, if you're mentally auditing your own spaces right now, you already have it. The technical stuff, like what we just covered, that's all learnable. The systems for finding clients, pricing your services, building a portfolio that gets you hired, that's all learnable too. That's exactly why I created the Interior Academy. It's the complete roadmap for turning that design eye that you already have into actual paying work. Even if you don't have a degree, even if you've never charged anyone before, even if you're starting from your kitchen table like I did. If you're ready to see what's possible, there's a link in the description that'll show you everything. Subscribe if you found this valuable, and I'd love to know in the comments, which of these 5 mistakes was your biggest, "oh crap, I'm totally doing that" moment? Don't worry, you're definitely not alone. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm Amelia, and I'll see you in the next one.